On August 24, 2011, 10 years ago, Apple co-founder Steve Jobs resigned as CEO, leaving the world's newly minted most valuable brand in the hands of his successor, Tim Cook. Just 6 weeks later, Jobs passed away, and the future of the Apple lay solely on the shoulders of Tim Cook. Needless to say, Cook has some big shoes to fill. Jobs is remembered as a visionary CEO and the marketer behind the Mac, iPhone, iPad, iTunes, and the App Store. A decade later, what has Tim Cook built? And why did the late Steve Jobs choose Tim Cook as the next leader of the grand Apple empire? When Jobs stepped down, some critics questioned Cook's ability to deliver the same level of creativity and innovation, but Cook found new ways to make the Apple products irresistible. Not in the shoe of Steve Jobs, but as the Tim Cook his own shoes. And after a decade, Cook's instinctive choices has made the Apple one of the most important companies of the modern age. And last year, the tech giant became the first company to hit the $2 trillion market capitalization. So now, looking back at the decades without Jobs, Apple has been through the biggest decade ever. So this video will be the first chapter of the Steve Jobs trilogy. All of the following 3 videos will be devoted to the legendary late Steve Jobs. 10 years have been passed since the farewell. For praying and honoring the late Steve Jobs, I prepared 3 videos, and the last video will be uploaded on the 10th anniversary of his death. For the first video, let's start with a story by looking back a decade without Steve Jobs, the Apple's biggest decade ever. Ten years ago, Tim Cook was named CEO of Apple on August 24, 2011. Tim had a tough task. His predecessor Steve Jobs founded a company in return from Excel to bring the Apple back from the brink of death and launch a product that defined the Apple as modern computing juggernaut, the iMac, iPad, iPhone, and iPad. But Cook says that Jobs told him to be his own leader and never asked, "What does Steve Jobs do?" He took that advice, building the rigorous operational juggernaut and turning Apple into the most valuable publicly traded company in the world. Under Tim Cook, Apple shored up the iPhone business and bolstered it with a constellation of new products that attracted new customers and entrenched current customers in Apple's world. Since 2011, the company has released several new products including Apple Watch and AirPods. Cook's Apple is significantly bigger than it was when he took over. Then here's Cook's grand 10 years report card. At first, revenue. Cook had been acting CEO before he officially took over, but the difference between the quarter before Cook took charge and today's sales underscore how much larger Apple has gotten. In the third fiscal quarter of 2011, Apple reported $28.57 billion in revenue. This year in the same quarter and the most recent quarter which figures are available, Apple reported $81.4 billion in sales. Nearly 3 times as much. It's really huge, so it's really hard to grasp how big is that. So let's make the numbers more tangible. By June 2021, Apple now makes an average of $10,000 every second, $3,600 of which is pure profit. While you're watching this video, Apple is now keep making money. And one step further, let's add some more dramatic effect on this revenue part. I will read out Apple's first quarter revenue starting from 2011 to the 2021. $26.7 billion in 2011, $46.3 billion in 2012, $54.5 billion in 2013, $57.6 billion in 2014, $74.6 billion in 2015, $75.3 billion in 2016, $78.4 billion in 2017, $88.3 billion in 2018, $84.3 billion in 2019, $91.8 billion in 2020, $111.4 billion in 2021. And Apple's iPhone alone accounts for nearly $39.6 billion last quarter, which is more than the company's entire sales when Tim Cook took over. The second, stock price and market capitalization. Investors would be happy if they bought Apple on Cook's first day. An investment of $1,000 in Apple stock on August 24, 2011 would be worth more than $17,000 as of today, and over 32% annual rate of return if they reinvested all dividends. The S&P 500 only returned just more than 16% annually over the same period. Apple is most valuable publicly traded company worth more than $2.4 trillion, edging out other giants such as Microsoft and Amazon. One thing propelling Apple's market capitalization is the company's new focus in its service business. The catch-all category includes software subscriptions like iCloud and Apple Music, App Store downloads, and portion of the transactions users make in the apps they downloaded, Apple Care warranties, money from Google to make its search engine the default on iPhone, and costs from the Apple Pay payment service. Apple first started to call attention to the previously sleepy category in 2015 as iPhone growth slowed. Apple has started to release new products to bolster its service that bill on a recurring basis, including Apple News Plus, a digital magazine bundle, and Apple TV Plus, a competitor to Netflix. It's also bundling a service in a subscription called Apple One. Most recently, it started to add privacy features to paid iCloud accounts. The growth of Apple's service business from $2.95 billion in fiscal 2011 to $53.77 billion in 2020 has given investors confidence that it can find new revenue streams even as iPhone sales slowed. The third, new products. Jobs was known as a product-focused CEO who was involved in the development of new devices from their concept until they were on the store shelves. Tim Cook isn't as product-focused as his predecessor, but his Apple has managed to launch several new successful products. In 2015, Apple released the Apple Watch, a companion for iPhone that tracks heart rates, displayed notifications, and worked for a variety of compatible watch bands from fashion brands like Hermes. Following the reports from credible sources, Apple shipped 33.9 million watches just in 2020, far outpacing Huawei, the second-place company which only shipped 11 million smartwatches. Apple also released AirPods in 2016. The company's wireless headphones account for just under half of the wireless headphone sales in 2020. By comparison to the past days, in 2011, Apple's other category, at the time called the peripheral and other hardwares, reported $2.3 billion in sales. By 2020, after being bolstered by the release of both Apple Watch and AirPods, it has more than $30.6 billion in revenue and the moniker wearables, homes, and accessories. Apple's main product remains the iPhone, which accounts for 47% of the company's sales in the most recent quarter. But under Cook's watch, the iPhone has improved on a rigorous annual release schedule. There are overwhelming challenges ahead of Apple, but it's certain that whatever comes next for Apple, Cook remains a steady hand at his helm. Tim Cook has shown his superbness so far, and we all believe he will do. Good business always needs two different types of leaders. One is the visionary and the other is the operation guy who can build a vision to the actual profit and a real business. Only one can never make and build an empire like Apple. For Apple, Steve Jobs was the former visionary and Tim Cook is the latter operational guy. The two leaders are behind the legend of Apple. So we've so far looking back the days without Steve Jobs, his legacy did not stop, and his innovational spirit has made Apple bigger and bigger. Then let's move on to the second chapter of Steve Jobs' trilogy. Thank you so much for watching my video, and please subscribe to my channel and share your thumbs up. I will hop around the world and bring lots of thousands of funny stories to you guys. And see you again. Bye!